G'day, my name's Dan. I'm one of the fabricators here at Torqit in Newcastle. Today we're underneath this JB74 and we're going to do a video about installing the exhaust. The main three things to look out for are going to be how to get these studs in, factory manifolds, and two brackets up the back here. It'll be much easier to watch on video than to try and figure it out yourself. If you want to skip forward, the whole video is in chapters as well, so let's get started. So here's the tools we're going to use for the job. I'm going to use a rattle gun. I got short 14, I got the deep 14, I got a wobbly with a couple of extensions. I got a 10mm socket and then 14mm spanner and 7/8 for a 22 for the oxygen sensor. Now the other thing I've got is I've got some WD-40 in here, and what we're going to do is we're going to spray everything first. So we'll spray up in here, we'll spray where the oxygen sensor is and all the bolts that hold it on. And when we go to slip off the rubbers, we're going to use the WD-40 to make the rubbers slip on and off the car easier. So same when we put the new exhaust on, we'll lube them up with WD-40 so we can slip the rubbers on. They're very tight to keep the exhaust secure, make sure it doesn't hit anything on the car. And as a result, the WD-40 is going to help a lot. The oxygen sensor is often very tight, and it's pretty difficult to undo it if the exhaust is hanging off the car. So first things first, get the oxygen sensor cracked, and then we're going to crack these bolts here and at the rear. And lastly, we'll take these bolts here at the front off, and then we'll put the studs in. So now we've got the complete factory exhaust off, and the most important part of this video is explaining these parts here that come in the kit. They're probably not self-explanatory, and it's a little bit difficult to figure out what's going on in the photos. So first of all, we have the studs. These studs are going to go up into the manifold here. We'll show you that in a moment. And then we have these two brackets. So if you look back here, the factory exhaust uses this rubber here. Now, if you have an aftermarket long-range fuel tank, which our exhaust system is designed to be compatible with, then you're going to find the fuel tank covers this area, and as a result, you can't use this hanger. So to replace the hanger, we have this. This actually comes from a long-range fuel tank kit. We have a good relationship with them. They're local to us here in Newcastle. So these come with every one of our exhaust systems, and it's going to go on this bolt just here. So hopefully you can see that pretty well in the video. We're going to unbolt that. We're going to stick that back on, and we're going to bolt it back up. Now, don't forget, when you do this, if your fuel tank's got 50 litres of fuel in it, it's going to be 50 plus kilos. So just be careful. It might be best to do it with an empty tank, or if you have no trouble with the weight, then just hold on to it when you do it. And the last one is this bracket here. Now, because our exhaust runs down the side of the car rather than through the middle and then around the tank, it does get close to the handbrake cable here. So we have this little P-clamp bracket. It's very straightforward. You're going to undo the bolt, you're going to put the handbrake cable in the P-clamp and clamp it back on. And then this is going to bolt under this factory bolt that I'll show you here. So if you have a look up in here, there's already a handbrake cable bracket that holds the handbrake cable here that you can see. This is going to be bolted on here, holding the handbrake cable, and it's going to hold it up out of the way, give us plenty of clearance and keep the heat off the handbrake cable. So the studs that have to go into the factory manifolds here, I'm going to show you how to get those in nice and secure. So how studs work is you'll notice they have a long threaded portion, they have a short threaded portion, and they have the unthreaded portion. So how this works is the short part goes into the car, and we want to tighten it up into that unthreaded portion there. So what we'll do is we'll take one of the nuts and put it on upside down backwards on the long side, and then the other one forwards. I'm going to tighten the flanges into each other. So take a spanner here, you can use two spanners or however you'd like to do it. So now those are locked onto each other. This is basically a bolt. So what we'll do is up in here, we have to take this factory gasket off. We're going to replace that with a different gasket in a moment. We'll start these with our fingers. Make sure the threads are in nice and straight. We'll get our rattle gun up in here, or however you'd like to do it. Get it nice and tight. And then we just need to get the nuts back off. So, just like that. And that's it. Now the stud's in very secure, ready to hold our exhaust on for good. Next, this exhaust bracket here. This is a 12mm. Try and get this done. So now this one onto this handbrake cable, that's a 10mm here, and that's a 12mm up there. So I'll pop this off. Now the nuts are tack your onto there so it won't come off. So the studs we just installed are going to hold the front pipe on. These 4 bolts are going to go between the other parts of the exhaust. You've got this one rubber here with the 2 holes. It's going to go up here on this new mount we just suck on. And then you've got these which are going to go on the tailpipe there. Now, it's going to be a lot easier if you install these on the exhaust first and then get them up onto the car rather than onto the car. And the reason for that is that there's 2 hangers on the exhaust. And when your hands are up in that awkward space, it's very difficult to try and get all 4 of these lined up and pushed on at the same time. So stick these on the exhaust first and then pop it on the car. And of course the gasket's also in the kit. There's 3 gaskets. These 2 are the same, they hold the exhaust together. This one you'll notice is very slightly smaller. Put it behind there so you can see better, it's a little bit smaller. And that's the one that's gonna go up the front. So we'll get it on there now. So we've got the front pipe on just with the nuts on finger tight. And when we tighten these, what we're gonna do is we're gonna push this across because there's a little bit of room to wiggle left and right, as you can see. So before we tighten them, we wanna get it wiggled across so I've got as much room from the pan, especially on an auto. And then we'll tighten them up and we'll get the other 2 pieces on the car. So now I've got these tightened up, we just pushed across. You can see I can get my finger through there, only just, but that's plenty of space. So the mid pipe is reasonably tricky to get up and over through here because there's not a lot of space. On the hoist it's easy and I'll show you how that's done on the hoist. But at home, what you're going to want to do is one of 2 things. Either jack the car up very high on ramps so that the exhaust can hang down quite a lot as you lever it up and over. Alternatively, the other thing that you can do is you can jack the body up, which is going to leave the diff hanging down, and that'll give you more space to get through here. Or you might need to do a combo of both. It can definitely be done with wheel ramps at home and a jack, but it is awkward, so keep that in mind. Now that everything's all fitted, we're just going to tighten it up and we're going to go slowly. We're going to start at the back, make sure it's all lined up, and then we're going to move to the front. Now, it seems obvious that you should make sure that the flanges are lined up perfectly, and that makes sense, but sometimes you'll actually need to align the exhaust, and there's a little bit of play in the flanges too, so you can move exactly where the exhaust sits. And of course, if you need to, you can slide it around in the rubbers. So now we've got it all tightened up. The last thing is just to get the oxygen sensor in there. But before I do that and show you how to do it, I'll just remind you that after a couple of thousand Ks, a couple of things are going to happen. One is that the exhaust is going to settle into its final spot. So you might need to get under here and adjust it a little bit, check all your bolts and tighten it up. And 2, one thing that a lot of people forget is that tons of the sound from your exhaust actually come through the tubes. Not all of it comes out the back. So after a couple of thousand Ks, when it gets full of carbon, the note's going to deepen and get nicer as well. So now this oxygen sensor, the oxygen sensor's on a cable, and when you tighten it up, it's going to twist the cable, and we don't want that. So you have a look here and you count your threads, oxygen sensor's got about 5. So we're going to wind it backwards 5 turns. So we're going to twist these threads backwards, and then when we put it in and we tighten it up, the threads are going to end up in a perfect, the wires are going to end up in a perfect neutral spot. So we'll get that nipped up tight.